Hello, this is Clare Norman, and I have just run this session for ICF Greece and thought it would be useful to share it with a wider audience. This is all about the virtues of virtual coaching. So here's what we'll cover in this short 15 minutes. Our journey through the pandemic, what the research says about virtual, how to set up your thinker for success in the virtual coaching environment, and also how to set yourself up for success in virtual coaching. So let's start with our journey. So pre-pandemic, it seemed that virtual coaching was deemed to be second class in comparison to face-to-face. That's absolutely not true. I've been coaching virtually for pretty much the full 20 years that I have been coaching, and I actually notice how it is different, and it is as good as, if not in some instances better than face-to-face, and we'll talk about that in a moment, what some of the research says. But certainly when I wrote an article for the ICF blog back in 2018, I felt as though I was trying to influence the community that we should embrace more virtual coaching. Then during the pandemic, we were forced to embrace virtual coaching. It happened to us. We had no choice. It was the only option. So we got on and figured out how to do it. Those people who'd never done it before actually figured out this thing called virtual coaching. Some perhaps better than others, but it became the only way of coaching. Post-pandemic, of course, there is a question mark. What will happen? Will virtual coaching stay as the norm, or will it become part of a blended approach? And I think that will partly depend on the coach and what they want to offer, how they like to work. Certainly in my case, I feel as though there is a much better case now for us to continue in this virtual space, unless people want to come and do walking coaching with me in the New Forest, which is the other option that I offer. So that is the journey we've been on. So let's look at some research which has now been backed up by our field experience. We know some of these by the sheer fact that we've been practicing these things over the last 15, 16 months. But there is research that tells us that this is true, not just our feelings or our senses. So first of all, there is no difference in the reported level of problem resolution for face-to-face and distance clients. No difference in the reported level of problem resolution. So the strength of the working alliance was found to be significant for problem resolution in distance coaching, and coaches self-reported strong levels of working alliance in both conditions, both face-to-face and distance. So what we're saying here is, as long as you have a strong working alliance, you can move to support the person you are working with in moving forward. And this is research by Berry, Ashby, Nilka and Matheny in 2011. Another piece of research shows that gaze aversion benefits cognitive performance. And gaze aversion meaning looking away, not needing to give eye contact. So it benefits cognitive performance not just by disengaging visual attention from irrelevant visual information, but also by interrupting social interaction processes that are involved in face-to-face communication. So we don't need that politeness of giving eye contact. And it's that politeness that can get in the way of us doing our best thinking. So this suggests that the coaching experience is actually better for our clients when there is no need for eye contact. Coaching where the coach and the client are walking side by side, for example, or telephone coaching without a webcam, meet this need. So, we've all fallen into this way of using Zoom with webcam, but it isn't necessarily the best way because we get distracted by seeing ourselves on the screen. They get distracted as well by seeing themselves on the screen and what's behind them. That stops them doing their best thinking. But also, there's this kind of distorted sense of needing to give eye contact, and you can't give eye contact over webcam unless you're looking straight into the webcam's eye, which very few of us do because we're looking at the person in front of us instead. So it's almost impossible to get eye contact on Zoom anyway, and gaze aversion really does benefit cognitive performance. So if we are using webcam, I will tend to encourage people to look wherever they need to look, not at me or not at the screen. But equally, I do prefer walking coaching, and I prefer telephone coaching, the audio only piece. So this piece of research about gaze aversion came from Markson and Peterson in 2011 also. A third piece of research then, across 5 experiments, individuals who only listened without observing were able, on average, to identify more accurately the emotions being experienced by others. Now, this is counterintuitive. There's an argument that we need to be face-to-face to be able to see their whole body language. Well, this says not, that actually we can more accurately tell what their emotions are simply by listening. We get really good at listening between the lines, not just to what's been said, but how it's been said, what's not been said. This is what really helps us to tune into people's emotions. And this was 2017 research by Krauss. So all of these pieces of research appeared in the original blog that I wrote, The Virtues of Virtual Coaching, as my argument as to why we should be embracing it more. And then we were forced to at the beginning of 2020. So now we know it can work. This live experiment has enabled us to see that this really is virtuous. So let's talk about how you can set up your thinker for success. And this is certainly also applicable to you. And these are the kinds of things that I might send out to a thinker in their joining instructions before starting coaching to help them to make the most of their thinking time. One is an encouragement to move away from their usual work chair or room so that they can think differently to the way that they normally think. If they're tethered to their normal chair, they are tethered to their normal thinking. So moving somewhere else is really powerful. I also get them to consider standing or walking for optimum oxygen to the brain, which of course is a prerequisite for creative thinking. The body takes in 11.5% more oxygen when standing compared to sitting. So encouraging them to stand or to walk. Maybe we are both on our phones together doing walking coaching, not together, but in our own environments. That could be one way of increasing the oxygen to their brains. I ask them to join the session from a place that is private, quiet, and feels safe to be vulnerable. We want them to be able to say whatever they need to say and be honest with themselves. So I encourage them not to join from an open office or a cafe, which I know they won't have been able to do for the past year or so, but also not to join from a thoroughfare in their house, like a kitchen where other people come in and out to make coffee, because those other people can hear and see every word and every move, and that can stop our thinker from doing their best thinking. So I recognize that this can be difficult when there are children working from home, other people working from home. The children wouldn't be working from home, being schooled at home. And yes, we are occasionally going to get some interruptions from them, but it's worth them, you know, we need to set some boundaries which might flex on the odd occasion when children come barreling into a room, for example, unannounced, and that can be difficult to stop from happening. But let's start from a place of trying to have a private space for them. I also say that if they're in the office, not to join from an office that has internal glass walls unless they can draw the blinds. And this is because, again, they can't feel completely able to be vulnerable and bring their whole selves. And also, if I get them up from the chair, moving around, doing other things, yes, I do that virtually, then they're not going to have the embarrassment factor of other people seeing through the glass. And then I say, please don't join while you're driving. And it really surprises me when I have on the odd occasion had people joining when they're driving, because how can you drive and give your full attention to thinking? But of course, people do join regular meetings while they are driving, or have done it in the past before the pandemic. And so they think this is the same thing, that it's okay to do that, but you can't do the depth of thinking that we would encourage them to do while they're driving. It is not safe to drive while you are doing this level of thinking. So we need to make that explicit as part of the joining instructions. I ask them to leave their mobile and any other phones outside of the room, not least because we don't want to be disturbed by the ringing, but also because research found that even if cell phones are turned off, turned face down, or put away, the mere presence of those phones in the room reduces our cognitive capacity, i.e., we cannot think so well because we are distracted by our phone. So it's important for our thinker and for us to set those phones aside in order to increase our cognitive capacity. I also ask them to turn off any alerts. So if we are meeting over Zoom, for example, if they get a ping of an instant message or an incoming email, it's going to distract them. Okay, maybe that's only momentary, but their train of thought will be shattered, and it will take them some time to be able to get back to that train of thought that they were in. So I definitely encourage them to do that if we are working via Zoom. And I also ask them to schedule 15 minutes in their diary before and after the session to make sure they're not turning up all in a dither, all in a hurry, all panicky, not breathing properly, not having taken care of their biological needs, hurrying from one meeting to the next. It's not conducive to great thinking if they do that rushing around. So again, it might seem obvious to us to have a 15-minute period beforehand to get ready, but it's not necessarily obvious to them. And then last but not least, I encourage them to stay hydrated, because again, this is how we think best, if we are hydrated. There may be lots of other things that you've learned over the course of the past year that you would add to this list as well, but these are the ones which really strike me. Now, what about you? Setting yourself up for success in the virtual world of coaching. So some things to consider. First of all, your coaching mindset for virtual coaching and your beliefs about how well it works. If you hold on to any limiting beliefs, the quality of your coaching will be limited. So get rid of those. Really believe that this does work per the research. Also consider how you can be just as creative in the virtual space as you can face-to-face. So I have recorded another video about how to go about doing this. People assume that just because we are not in the room together, we cannot use artifacts to lay out a system in front of us, or we can't get them to draw pictures, or we can't get them to stand up, or we can't I don't know, use music. Of course we can. We can use all of those things. We simply need to adjust the way we go about doing those in order to make them effective. So take a look at that separate video if you want to find out more. But then also build your capacity around swift trust building. You want to get straight into this. Listen actively with all your senses and being fully present without distractions. Those are some of the key competencies that you need to build your muscles in for virtual coaching. But then also think about your energy. So when do you do your best work? How many people can you coach in a day with the last person getting the same great coaching as the first? How much time do you need between sessions in order to decompress and to reflect and to be fully present for the next? So, are you going out in the garden, getting some fresh air, listening to the birds, reconnecting with nature to just decompress and be ready for the next person that you're working with in the day? This is so important, and I think we have kind of rushed into diary management where we are cramming in as many meetings as we can into a day. I see this in the workplace and I see it in coaches. Oh, I can do 6 or 7 coaching sessions in a day. Well, yeah, you might be able to from a time perspective, but can you from an energy perspective? Are they all getting the same level of quality coaching from you? That's something to stop and ask yourself. And then there's something to think about with the tech. There's lots of things we could say about the technology, but my top tip is to take off your self view so that you aren't distracted by looking at yourself. All you get when you take off your self view, you can only see your thinker, and that means the quality of your attention on your thinker is going to really up the ante on the quality of their thinking. So in order to do that, you click on the 3 dots at the top of your video picture and you click on hide self view. If you want to bring yourself back, you click on the 3 dots at the top of the other person's picture and it'll say show self view, and that will bring you back. So we've talked about setting your thinker up and we've talked about setting you up for success. These are some of the things that I've learned over the course of my 20 years of coaching virtually. I'm sure you've learned an awful lot more too that you would add to these lists, but there's real food for thought here. So if you have enjoyed listening into this and you feel like you want to work with me more, then please know that I have a business development mastermind group for coaches, which you can sign up for to get coaching from other coaches who are also building or pivoting their businesses. I'm also a mentor coach and I'm a coach supervisor. So if you need any of those, please get in touch. And also I record a podcast about coaching supervision with Steve Ridgely, and the links are there for you to be able to download that podcast if you are so inclined. Here are my details. If you want to get in touch, please do. If I can support you in some way for some kind of fair exchange, please let me know. Thank you for listening in. I hope that this has been useful to you. Take